Welcome to Smash Fiction, where we pit fictional characters against each other in a battle of shields, or Steves, or being objectively too good for this fallen world, and see who would win. This week, Captain America versus Steven Universe. Good afternoon, and welcome to Monster Watch. I'm your host, Farkas Bulkmeyer. As I'm sure our viewers are likely aware, the attacks by the alien robot sorcerer warlord, known as Lord Bakuman, have escalated recently. Everyone remembers when Lord Bakuman showed up a few months ago in Earth's orbit, announcing that he had recently won ownership over the Earth in a game of space poker chess, and intended to destroy every building on the planet, quote, for funsies. He began with a two-pronged assault, sending down monstrous minions to Newark, New Jersey, and Ocean Town, Delmarva. Fortunately, as is so often the case, the arrival of new alien threats was met by the arrival of two new groups of Power Rangers. Ocean Town's protectors emerged in the form of the Alphabet Rangers, 5 teenagers who draw their incredible power from the 5 vowels of the English language. No word yet if the enigmatic Y Ranger is on their side, or is perhaps the secret leader of Lord Bakuman's consonant commandos. Meanwhile, in Newark, Lord Bakuman's army of size-changing creatures was met with the arrival of the Calendar Rangers, whose abilities and identities are tied to the 5 days of the week. Speculation is already running rampant about how long it will be before the rumored Saturday and Sunday Rangers complete the roster. Unfortunately, it looks like these newest Power Rangers took the teenagers with attitude portion of their mandate a bit too much to heart, and they've been far from the cohesive team we've come to expect from Earth's protectors. We go now to our field reporter, Eugene Skulovich, live at the Zordon Memorial Cylinder in Angel Grove. Eugene? Haha! Thanks, Bulk! Farkas? Yes, the Rangers PR representative, Alpha 98, just wrapped up a press conference detailing the current state of both Power Rangers teams. It sounds as though the Alphabet Rangers have been having trouble remembering the extensive rules behind their organization. This culminated in a particularly nasty encounter during a battle with one of Lord Bakuman's monsters, during which the I and E Rangers disagreed as to which one was supposed to attack first. In most circumstances, the I Ranger is expected to attack first, but there are a number of extremely particular exceptions that lead to ambiguities in the heat of the moment. Similarly, the Calendar Rangers are having a number of disagreements. The Friday Ranger has been accused of slacking off. The Wednesday Ranger takes exception to being referred to as the Hump Ranger. And everyone seems to have an irrational degree of hatred for the Monday Ranger. Fortunately, Alpha 98 has laid out a plan to bring in outside assistance for these issues. Neither Ocean Town nor Newark have a history of local superheroes, but they've reached out to the nearby settlements of Beach City and New York City, respectively, and have received offers of assistance. The Alphabet Rangers will be receiving guidance from Steven Universe, a member of Beach City's Crystal Gems, while the Calendar Rangers have announced a mentorship program helmed by Steve Rogers, known as Captain America of the Avengers. I think I speak for all of us when I say, aye. Back to you, Farkas. Thanks, Eugene. With more on this topic, we turn now to our guest expert, Dan Mulcairn, who will be judging a debate as to which of these wholesome shielding Steves will prove to have the power lying on their side. Thanks, Farkas. I'm still eagerly waiting to hear back from you on my proposed spin-off, Mulk, Bulk, and Skull. I really think it has some legs. Anyway, advocating for Captain America are Miles Schneiderman.
It's over, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it over? It's over, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it over? We've won, and they forfeit, 'cause our Steven's number one. It's over, isn't it? Wait, it's just begun.
And MeganBob.
I want you to take a moment and really think about how thick and luscious Captain America's beard is. You're welcome.
Judge, can we get that entered into the record, please?
So entered.
All right, thank you.
I would like Steven Universe's one chin hair entered into the record, please.
We'll call that one Exhibit B. Advocating for Steven Universe are Claire Mulcairn.
There appears to be an infestation of Stevens in this match. If you thought I wasn't singing, you're wrong, because I'm also going to sing. We're finally doing Steven Universe. I've never cared about a character this much before, and acting confident would just be lying. An hour from now, I'll probably be crying. I am Claire Mulcairn. I'll always talk too much, and when I don't know what to say, I'll use singing as a crutch. That's why my emotional state is rocky, and why all my openers are talky.
Nice.
And our special guest advocate, Sharon Schneiderman.
Go ahead and debate me if you're able. Can't you see that my argument is stable? I can see that you hate that I'm contentious. I think you're just mad because we're victorious.
Nice.
And to clarify, we are using the version of Captain America that appears in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, aka the only version of Cap that Miles would agree to represent.
That is factually correct.
In order to determine who goes first this week, I decided to return to our roots and just do a good old-fashioned coin flip. Unfortunately, after all my Power Rangers research, the only coins I had lying around were those power coins that the old-school Rangers used, you know, the ones that give you dinosaur powers. And apparently there's some weird side effect to throwing around millennia-old items of power. Good news, though, we did determine the turn order for this match. Team Cap will be going first, followed by Team Steven Universe, and it only took destroying several cities on the West Coast to do it. So, Team Captain America, assemble.
Steve Rogers has some sort of magical pheromones that make people cooperate with him. Is that an insane and unprovable argument? I don't know, Judge. Get a whiff of this action and you tell me. Rogers is a team whisperer. He's worked with the Howling Commandos, the Avengers, Team Fugitives, Team Civil War, and Team Supergroup, which is what I'm going to call the entirety of the people fighting during Infinity War. He is such a team whisperer that people listen to him and respect him, even when they have zero context. When he storms the POW camp in the first Captain America film, everyone listens to him when he gives them orders to make a huge distraction. They don't even really know who he is. He's just a rando in a bodysuit that screams, I don't know what camouflage is. And yet, unanimously, everyone goes, yes, this primary colored motherfucker is no doubt going to lead us to victory. That's insane! You wouldn't follow Captain Crunch or Ronald McDonald into battle. But there's just something about Cap. He's got that delicious stank of cooperation on him. Rogers wins over people who know they shouldn't be helping, or who don't particularly like working in teams. Peggy helps him get behind enemy lines in the first film. By the end of the Avengers film, Tony, I'd like to complain about this, Stark, is taking orders from Steve. Falcon, a guy who has only just met Steve like 5 scenes ago, offers to shelter him and his merry band of fugitives in his own house. Who does that? Arguably no one. But when Captain America calls on you, you answer the damn door and you make the finest waffles you are able to make. The fanfic writer in me wants to say this is all because everyone wants to bang Steve, and that is almost certainly factually correct. But it still doesn't explain why people go out of their way to work with him. After all, as fanfic has taught us, you don't have to like someone to rub bits with them. The best explanation is that he is truly one of those people that people believe in and want to work with. Or he smells like vintage sexiness. Or both. People want to work with Steven Universe too, but he's rarely the leader. And when he is the leader, it tends to be in very low stakes situations, like helping Lars conquer his fear of sharing his baking, or resolving the conflict of Kofi and Fryman in the Boardwalk Food Wars, because he's 14 dang years old. If we want to talk about what kind of leader he is to teenagers on the battlefield, his attempt to pep talk Lars through breaking them free of the topaz gem they're imprisoned in is fraught with Lars sighing and refusing to actually invest in getting them free. Teenagers are like that. When working with Peridot to capture a corrupted gem, it takes hours and hours plus a slew of Acme-level flubs for them to make any headway. Steven Universe is amazing, but he just doesn't have the same success rate out of the gate that Cap does. He needs a little bit more time to hone those instincts. Granted, he's on his way and could easily take on Cap in another year or two, but right now he's still just starting out. Steven Universe is a sweet bean, but he's a baby. In season 5, even when he's progressing his skills as a leader, he still makes the kind kind of mistakes that a fundamentally selfless and sweet person would make. He risks himself to stop everyone else being taken to the gem home world, and ends up deeply hurting Connie in the process. Even with his latest powers, he's only just beginning to get the hang of who he is and what that means for him as a fighter and a leader. By the time we get to the start of Age of Ultron, Steve is leading the team and has special moves, or fusions, if you will, with his teammates. He and Thor do the awesome Thunder Shield move that causes a shockwave. They didn't invent it in the moment. They invented it during the classic Marvel they meet and fight moment. But they've been practicing together. Practicing. And now they have it down well enough to use it tactically. At the end of Ultron, Steve is the one there to train the newest Avengers in teamliness, and he trains them all well enough that they side with him in the Civil War kerfuffle. None of these people are teenagers, but they might as well be. If anything, the people Rogers worked with are worse than teenagers. They're grown-ups with power and influence who are pretty much convinced of their superiority. If Steve can bring together a group of people that would make Mr. Rogers a little cranky, he can absolutely bring together some baby Power Rangers and have them doing trust falls by lunchtime.
Your Honor, like my partner in this match, I think that Steven Universe will be the leader of the Crystal Gems, and probably sooner rather than later. We're currently right in the middle of a run of episodes that seems to be largely about Steven taking on a leadership role, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he comes back from Homeworld as the HGIC. In fact, I'll do you one better. I don't even think there's an abundance of evidence to indicate that Steven Universe would perform poorly in this scenario. There isn't. But here's the thing. There's also very little evidence to indicate that Steven Universe would perform well in this scenario. I think he would, personally, but I can't back that up with facts. Because the facts are that Steven's ability to inspire those around him, his role as the heart and soul of a group of extraordinary people, the power he has to sway former enemies into joining his side, all of it is seen almost exclusively in the context of the Crystal Gems. And leading and inspiring the Crystal Gems does not translate to leading and inspiring a group of random superpowered teenagers who exist outside of the world of Beach City and its attendant alien invaders. The world of Steven Universe is a beautiful world, full of positive emotions and happy crying and people being fundamentally good. Remove Steven from that world and I don't even know what happens. Obviously, the gems love and trust him, but those relationships have been built over the course of his entire life. And while his ability to help them work better as a team is impressive, it's also important to remember that they've been a team for thousands of years already, and their ability to fuse with one another more or less on command speaks to the cohesion that existed between them long before Steven came around. Lapis lets Steven in because he freed her from a mirror, Bismuth because he freed her from a bubble, and Peridot because she was abandoned on Earth and doesn't have much of a choice. These relationships are all very legitimate and they grow into beautiful things, but they are also informed by outside circumstances and or the fact that Steven used to be Rose Quartz, about whom they have feels. Even when Steven issues a ridiculous number of massive spoiler warnings, and finds out that he actually used to be Pink Diamond, one of the 4 highest authorities on Homeworld, to the extent that the other 3 diamonds all treat him like their kid sister who's just been away for a while, his ability to influence is still derived from his position in gem culture. Outside of gem culture, things are different. Even in Beach City, home of Onion of all people, Steven is kind of a weird kid. He's had a relatively isolated upbringing, and he displays several instances of social awkwardness. Sure, quote-unquote regular people like Connie's parents do come around on him, but he's not the most instantly relatable person in the world. It's also worth mentioning that Steven has occasionally been a negative influence on the relationships of the humans in his life, most obviously Lars and Sadie, the show's most prominent maybe teenagers? Much as he might want them to get together, he can't exert enough social authority to make it happen because they don't know he's a superhero and don't have any reason to give him that authority. Moreover, despite Steven's attempts at shipping them, Lars and Sadie really shouldn't be together, and Steven's efforts don't do anything to change that. And while I love Steven for his empathy and his unrelenting insistence on seeing the best in people, he is frequently naive and often shows himself to be pretty deeply insecure. For all his belief in others, there are individuals that he hasn't been able to just love into siding with him. Jasper goes down fighting him, Aquamarine is deaf to his appeals to her humanity, Eyeball tries to kill him, and Navy straight up betrays him after making him think she'd join the team. And all of this happens in his own world. Now we're sticking him somewhere else with 4 regular teens who don't know him, presumably don't know what gems are, and I'm guessing don't have a lot in common with the cool kids. How will Steven fare under these circumstances? I have no idea. What I do know is that Steve Rogers has demonstrated time and time again that he does have the ability to lead and inspire basically any person who crosses him in the street, from the armies of Wakanda to that guy who initially wasn't sure whether or not he needed men in those buildings. In the entirety of the MCU, there is only one class of human being that has ever failed to like and respect Captain America, and they invaded Poland in 1939. In First Avengers, Steve is chosen for a super soldier program specifically and directly because of his personality. There is literally no other reason to make him a super soldier. And hey, the results are in. The moment he gets a chance, he goes from circus act to military general, and the Howling Commandos are instantly ready to die for him. In the Avengers, it might take the entire movie for them to come together as a team, but as soon as they do, he is immediately recognized as the leader, with Iron Man, his most vocal critic, announcing as much with the simple words, "Call it, Captain." Winter Soldier sees Steve make a lifelong friend and superhero partner out of a guy he happened to be jogging past one day, as well as getting half of S.H.I.E.L.D. to accept his word that the other half are secretly part of a long-dead Nazi agency based solely on a damn good speech. In Age of Ultron, Steve's issues with Tony Stark continue as a direct result not of Tony creating Ultron, but of Tony's inability to trust the team. And in Civil War, the only people who side with Iron Man are War Machine, Tony's best friend, Vision, Tony's creation, Black Panther and Spider-Man, who have never met Captain America before, and Black Widow, who almost immediately changes sides. Everyone else who's there stays loyal to Cap, and it's not because he's Captain America. Until the more recent movies, nobody really cared that he was Captain America. He stopped being Captain America for a while, and guess what? His team didn't go anywhere. Now, it's because he's Steve Rogers, the guy who jumps on grenades, nudges Thor's hammer, and holds his ground against the Infinity Gauntlet. No shield necessary. I think Steven Universe can do this. I really do. But I know for a fact that Steve Rogers can do this all day.
Spectacular Star-Spangled Squabbling Team Cap. Team Steven Universe. First, you need a gem at the core of your being. Then, you need a body that can turn into light. Then, you need a partner who you can trust with that light. Prove you can trust each other, and fuse into an opening argument.
No.
That's so sweet. Claire, back the fuck off.
Let's start with a metaphor. In the first Captain America movie, Cap gets a vibranium shield. It's solid, it's reliable, it's physical. In the first Steven Universe episode, on the other hand, Steven discovers that he can summon a magic shield, but it's tied to his emotions, it's exhausting to use, and it's inconsistent. Cut to the present day. Nowadays, Steven can consistently summon his shield instantly, he can create multiple shields at once and hold them indefinitely without any visible strain, he can move them with his mind, and he can make them grow large enough to cover his entire team at once. Like that time at the end of Season 1 where he protects his entire team from a direct blast from a homeworld's capital ship. Steve Rogers' shield still can't even cover his legs. Rogers' greatest strength is that, like a man frozen in ice, he never changes. Universe's greatest strength is his ability to grow and to help others grow with him. In the episode Steven vs. Amethyst, while Amethyst and Steven are training, she realizes that he has become a better fighter than her by pretty much every metric. Wanting to prove herself, Amethyst challenges Steven to a fight. Then, during that fight, Steven manifests a new power for the first time, a spiky bubble, angering Amethyst even more because this proves that Steven keeps getting better all the time and she isn't. The fight ends when both fighters finally start to talk. Amethyst confesses that she is feeling insecure. Steven tells her that he can relate because he feels like he is always living in the shadow of his mom, and that's why he always feels compelled to train and improve himself. Amethyst realizes the error of her ways, they laugh, they cry, and a couple episodes later, they end up fusing for the first time, and this disagreement paved the way for it. Steven not only learned something new himself in this episode, but he also helped the hard-headed Amethyst to get out of a 5,000-year-old emotional rut and grow as a person and as a fighter. Is Steve Rogers a better fighter in Infinity War than he was at the end of Captain America 1? Have Falcon, Black Widow, or anyone else become better at fighting because of the time they've spent with him? Side note, I know you might think that Rogers is going to have better battle plans than Steven does, but there's one tactic I'm pretty sure they don't teach you in the army, and that's fusion. And Steven can learn how to fuse with a new friend pretty quickly when he needs to. Remember that he fuses with Connie for the first time in Season 1, like very shortly after he met her, on accident. It won't take long before he and, I don't know, CJ the Wisteria Ranger or Brielle the Burnt Sienna Ranger have a moment together playing pinball, and then boom, the world's first ever 12-foot tall double color Power Ranger.
Someone was having fun looking up obscure color names.
Yeah, I was flipping through that big Crayola box with all the fun ones.
Oh, yeah.
If he ever manages to get the whole team on the same page, then who knows? Maybe they won't even need a Megazord, because they can all become a mega person, powered by the friendship grid.
Oh my god, I kind of want to see this now.
Dr. Erskine tells Steve that the super soldier serum, quote, amplifies everything inside. So good becomes great, bad becomes worse. And what was inside Steve the most? What was his greatest trait? The same as his shield. He is eternal, unchanging, indestructible. This can be seen clearly at the beginning of the first movie, when a pre-serum Rogers gets into a fight with a fellow movie patron whom he felt was being unpatriotic. The bully just keeps punching Steve, and Steve keeps getting back up. But you know what he isn't doing? He isn't talking to the bully. He isn't trying to understand him. He isn't trying to change him. And he also isn't adapting his tactics or trying anything tricky. He's just getting beaten up because it's the, quote, right thing to do, despite the fact that it isn't accomplishing anything. He holds true to his ideals, even when they make no sense from a utilitarian perspective. He has such a hard-on for some ill-defined sense of 1950s heroism that he is always more concerned with proving himself, doing what he thinks a real soldier should do from a moral perspective, as opposed to doing what a smart soldier should do from a tactical perspective. Like at the end of the first film, the whole thing with crashing the plane, it never made any sense to me. And guys, I tried, I researched it, I read theories about why he crashed the plane, why there was another way. I watched the scene like 5 times, and every time I just came up with more and more alternative ideas that he could have done instead of what he did do. He could have ejected all the little mini planes, since those are the ones carrying the bomb. Without pilots, they just crash. We see this happen, and then he could have landed the plane somewhere like in the Canadian wilderness. Or he could have escaped on one of those little planes, and he could have switched off the autopilot on the big plane and let it crash into the ocean. There are so many other options, Steve. Why'd you crash the stupid plane?
Claire, I was expecting you to get emotional. I was not expecting you to get emotional about this specific thing.
It makes no sense. All right. He instructs the team to blow up the hacked helicarrier that he is still inside in Winter Soldier. He is very quick to accept death when his team is stranded on a floating chunk of Sokovia rather than consider other options. And when Tony Stark asks him how they are planning on defeating the next alien invasion that comes their way, Steve responds with, together. Tony says, we'll lose. Steve says, then we'll do that together too. Look, Steve's willingness to give his life for the cause is admirable, but you know what, Steve? You and the people around you are valuable resources, and you should not be so quick to sacrifice yourself or your teammates when there might be a more creative solution that can help you get out of a jam. Sometimes you can't beat Ivan Ooze right away. Sometimes you have to go on a ninja quest to get your frog sword. A soldier's job is to fight and die for their country, but you're not a soldier anymore. You're a superhero. Your job is to always save the day, and if they think you can't, you always find a way. But you don't have the creativity to see any other way than to just throw punches at people stronger than you and wait for them to beat you up, and at that point, your indestructible will very much stops becoming a virtue. Checking it one last time on how those superpowers are coming along. Oh, looks like Steven Universe can now float, astrally project, control plants, and resurrect the dead with his tears. Steve Rogers' new power is that he has a beard. And no, I don't mean Sharon Carter.
When I think of leadership, I think of one character, Garnet. But next to her, I think of Steven Universe. Mr. Universe, the second, has had a life filled with love, respect, understanding, and empathy. In this unconventional upbringing, he has learned none of the idiotic gender norms, biases, and patriarchal nonsense that the captain ruminated in as a child. Although both characters have known weakness, confusion, and powerlessness, Steven Universe has been shown how to talk and to truly connect with those around him, whether they include goats, humans, or corrupted gems. Numerous times, we see Universe choose to see the good in those around him, and through his powerful empathy and beautiful songs, he helps them to make the right choice. We see this with Lars, who is constantly shown as mean, lazy, and apathetic. Steven sees through this facade and shows Lars that vulnerability, fear, and sadness are emotions that everyone feels and aren't negative attributes, but important parts of a healthy person. Universe not only literally saves Lars's life, but also encourages him to be a leader and embrace who he is. Steven does this with everyone in Beach City, helping people understand the gems, encouraging Sadie to join a band, and finding the goodness in Onion, his psychopathic friend that really is just lonely and different.
And psychopathic. Don't forget that part.
Also, yes, although Captain America is a good person, he is thoroughly entrenched in outdated patriarchal patriarchal gender norms that make him out of touch with his emotions. His school of hard knocks upbringing means that he fights everyone he disagrees with, and his disconnect with emotions and modernity means that he is often awkward and confused when conversing with his team. He came from a generation where stoicism, violence, and bravery are traits that all men should embody. Don't get me wrong, I love Captain America. He is a very good person, but his sense of goodness and justice are skewed by his past, and he has a more black and white view of people. The only person we see him truly connect with on an emotional level is Bucky Barnes. This emotional connection took years of knowing one another and multiple traumatic experiences. Even with those experiences that they share, Captain keeps Bucky at an emotional distance, ensuring that they still hug and talk like men. Steven Universe openly cries, hugs, and talks about love with nearly every character he interacts with. Steven is a healer. Not only with his life-saving spit, he heals relationships and emotions, quieting the inner doubts and insecurities of those around him. When tested in a gauntlet designed to prove his strength, Steven realizes that the gems made it impossible for him to fail. They feel like he needs a win in order to stay confident and develop his abilities. He realizes that the gems are insecure about their own abilities to parent him, and he pretends that the gauntlet was exactly what he needed because he realizes that they are the ones who need a boost in their ability to raise a human child. He also convinces the gems of Connie's strengths and reliability, persuading them to let her join their team. He also performs the more daunting task of convincing Connie's parents of his honorable intentions and builds connections between them, the gems, and his dad, Greg. Connie even develops a better relationship with her family due to Steven's honesty and support. She proves to be an invaluable and irreplaceable member of the Crystal Gems, and not only do Steven and Connie become friends, but they even fuse, becoming Stevani. Cap is so hard-headed that he feels like an alien, and not a cool alien like Rocket, but a lame alien like Alf.
Wow.
All my childhood.
He's someone you can look up to, but not trust. And so whenever a teammate wants to do something that they think he might not approve, they feel compelled to go behind his back. Like when Tony and Bruce don't consult Steve before they create Ultron, and later when they don't consult him before they upload Jarvis into a stolen Ultron body. And they're right for not trusting Cap to have an open mind. All throughout Civil War, Steve digs his heels in and escalates things. Tony offers olive branches, attempting to persuade Steve to join his side. But Steve only ever offers ultimatums, never trying to convince Tony to join him. And if you notice during his final fight with Tony in that movie, there is very little dialogue. Steve fairly quickly writes off Tony as a lost cause and just keeps fighting him. This is in stark contrast to the movie Steven Universe Civil War, in which, oh, what's that? Oh yeah, that's right. There is no Steven Universe Civil War because Steven Universe knows how to solve his problems with his friends without punching them. When disagreements occur, empathy proves to be an amazing superpower. Universe helps Greg and Pearl end a decade-long fight, allowing them to finally become friends. Steven also helps Ruby and Sapphire discuss and solve their differences on 2 separate occasions, not only in an attempt to reunite as Garnet, but he also encourages them to develop as individuals. He suggests that they marry so that they can be united whether fused or not. One thing that Claire's years of watching Power Rangers and my fan club membership has taught me is that there are plenty of villains that are capable of being redeemed, such as villainous Rangers Tommy, Ryan, and Merrick. Monsters of the week like Loyax from Lost Galaxy or Noticon from Time Force, and there are sometimes even big bads who who aren't all bad and who eventually become allies of their heroes, like Astronema or Rancic. And if anyone in all of fiction can help a villain turn from heel to face, it's Steven Goddamn Universe. We've got Peridot, Lapis, Bismuth, Topaz and Topaz, Blue Zircon, the Centipedal, the Cluster, a giant gem hybrid super weapon that was supposed to destroy the Earth, transforms into protector of the Earth after one conversation with Steven. Even Lars goes from being a bully to being your friendly local renegade space pirate fighting against Homeworld. It's so bad that even Blue Diamond comments at one point, does every gem that comes in contact with this planet turn traitor? And then, in the next episode, Blue Diamond herself turns traitor, where she and Yellow Diamond form an alliance with the Crystal Gems to try to fix the corrupted gems on Earth. Not only is every Rogue Ranger joining up with Steven, but like half the monsters of the week are gonna join with him. The big bad's right-hand man, and probably most of the putties or putty equivalents they encounter. Steven Universe will win this match, and if you think he can't, he'll always find a way.
Good job, Team Steven Universe. Sharon kind of stole my thunder on this, but I thought you couldn't. But it looks like you always find a way. So, now we move on to Act 2 of our epic story with some rebuttals. Team Captain America, when the mob and the press and the whole world tell you that you suck, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of bullshit and tell the whole world, no, you suck.
Let's see here. To address this whole point that Claire was hammering pretty hard about Steven changing and growing, whereas Captain America stagnates and remains kind of the same. First of all, I think you're absolutely wrong when it comes to Captain America's fighting style not developing, because it clearly does over the course of the movies. As far as the people around him, like, he absolutely changes them. Black Widow at the beginning of Winter Soldier is not the same Black Widow as the end of Winter Soldier. Falcon fights much better in Civil War than he does in Winter Soldier. I think that's very clear that all the members of that sort of second team of Avengers that Captain America personally selected to lead, it's very clear that they have grown. You know, and that's in the fighting stuff. As regards to the kind of mental stuff, like, of course Steven Universe grows and changes. He's 14. Cap's 90. He's not a character who you're gonna see, like, you know, suddenly discovering new, like, philosophies or worldviews or superpowers, but I don't think that means he can lead any worse.
Steven Universe has helped some gems who were thousands of years old change their ways, so I don't think anyone's ever stopped growing, first of all. Also, out of the team that he selected, 2 of them sided with him and 2 of them didn't. When you said everyone he was trading sided with him.
I pointed out why that was. War Machine was Tony's best friend, and Vision was Tony's creation.
One of the points that got brought up was that Steven can learn to fuse with people quickly because he learned to fuse with Connie quickly. Connie's extraordinarily special, and I don't believe that we see Steven fuse with any other humans except Connie. The Power Rangers, they're human, right? They're not like dinosaurs from the past, are they?
No.
Okay, that's a different show I'm thinking of.
He only fuses with Connie, but she's the only human that he really tries to. He doesn't dance with any other person. I mean, it's not like you just walk up to some dude on the street and go, I'm gonna dance with you. Maybe I can fuse with this other random person. It's a personal thing. You have to have a connection and you have to be willing to make that bond. So if it's somebody who's a teammate, like, say, Amethyst, you're going to be willing to try to make those connections and make the stepping stones that you actually can fuse with them.
And the reason that he fuses with Amethyst and Connie and not with the other gems is because he has more in common with them. I think he's going to have a lot in common with the people that he's with because they're all going to be humans, they're all going to be teens. I think it's more likely that he fuses with them than it is with Garnet or Pearl because they're very different from him.
So all the stuff you were saying, Claire, about the together speech that he makes, and really everything you said about Roger's, like, plans and the fact that he's self-sacrificing as opposed to creative, I kind of think you're misreading the point of this match a little bit, because the thing he says about Tony, like, we'll do everything together, we'll fight them together, if we lose, we'll lose together, That's not, this is my grand plan, it's to lose. That's called fucking inspiration, man. He's telling Stark to stop, moping and stop trying to find solutions on his own as an individual, and he can outline a plan because he's a goddamn genius. Captain America doesn't need to be creative. He needs to be a leader. He needs other people to be creative, and he teaches them how to be a cohesive team.
But they aren't a cohesive team. They're always on the verge of breaking up, and then they do break up.
When are they on the verge of breaking up?
In every movie, all the time. They're not a very close team. When Black Widow shows up at Peggy Carter's funeral, Steve's like, oh, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I thought you would need a friend. And he reacts like it's the weirdest thing he's ever heard in his life. They don't have that kind of relationship. You can tell from the way that he reacts. They're not friends with each other. They aren't close in that way. They get together when there's a world-threatening event, but when there's not, and they can put aside their differences because there's a bigger problem, but there's not really a deeper connection there. They're all in their own movies all the rest of the time, and they don't really like each other a lot.
We see that in Infinity War. They all have their own separate lives that are happening. You've got Vision and Scarlet Witch, and everybody's just kind of separate, and they all come together finally when something is bad enough for them to do it.
I'm willing to concede that Steven Universe is further along in some of that emotional development stuff, but I think that's a bit of a double-edged sword. So he's very close to Connie, very close to Amethyst, but those are also the two people who he tends to hurt the most deeply.
With Connie, when he goes to the homeworld and she's really upset with him, it takes 2 episodes for him to realize what happens, and as soon as he starts to figure out that she's upset, he thinks about how she felt and how he made her feel, and he talks to her about it. He understands what he did, and he apologizes for it. It's a thing that he learns from.
They are going to have problems like that, but it's because there's an underlying issue, and they'll get over it faster than multiple years of being apart. They'll get over it in an episode or 2, whatever the problem is,
And with Amethyst, he does things like wrestle and do all kinds of other things. That's why he joins wrestling, is because he knows that's helping her insecurities.
All right, Team Steven Universe, all I want to do is see you turn into a giant woman and then deliver some rebuttals. So two things that I want.
Oh, no.
You said that people who meet Steven don't like him immediately. Do you remember the episode with the cool kids? The cool kids like him immediately. They are our demo on this. They are a diverse group of moody teens, and they love Steven immediately. Lars thinks that they won't, and you, Miles, you bitter old Lars, are going to be wrong because they think he's really cool. As Buck Dewey says, you got that much-needed counterpoint to our cynical worldview.
Yeah. So first of all, I didn't say that people don't like Steven Universe when they meet him. All I said was that people don't instantly like him the way they do Steve Rogers. They begin the relationship with him for outside reasons, was my point. And as regards to the cool kids, man, those characters exist directly as a subversion of real teenagers. You know it, I know it, there are no kids like that, and certainly not in Power Rangers.
Okay, Power Rangers teens are very unrealistic teens as well in their own way.
But not in that way.
You're just making that point because Cap is sexy.
You are splitting the finest of hairs here, sir. But,
I thought it was interesting. MeganBob brought up the fact that the POWs follow him out of the camp. And I'm sorry, but maybe if I were in a cage by Nazis, if some person in Star-Spangled Stuff, I would probably think they were American and they were letting me out. So I would follow that person, no matter whether I knew them or not.
I completely agree with you that they would follow whoever it was that showed up. I do not believe that they would follow their orders. I think they would go, oh, if you're freeing me, I'll get out of the cage. I'm not going to stay in it. But to go, oh, you're right, rando.
Yeah, a day later, they're like, so you just freed us from that place and now you want us to go back in? And he's like, pretty much. And they're all like, all right.
That's because he's awesome about, how he saves them. That's badass.
Because he's great.
Judge, I would like it on the record, he is awesome. As
I already said he was awesome.
I know.
So entered?
I mean, he's very beardy.
So yeah, you said that Steven can only help lead in low-stakes scenarios, but there's a whole bunch of examples of him actually coming up with good plans or realizing things out in the field that the other gems don't realize, and then coming up with stuff and coming up with really cool plans in the moment. Like in the episode where they're in the weird dungeon and the rooms keep changing, he's the one who realizes that the dungeon is rotating and nobody else can realize it.
The Moss, how to save everybody from the Moss. You have this stupid teenagers who are like, I'm gonna cut through the police tape.
There's a whole bunch of times where he comes up with solutions to things that other people can't find.
I think he does. I just think that they tend to not be in much of a vacuum. Whenever he is the one who's the primary problem solver, it tends to be a lot bigger of an ask. He has a lot of support to help solve those problems.
Because he's part of a team?
Not with the Moss.
Every time everything goes really great for Captain America and he gets everybody to kind of follow him and he does stuff, it kind of all revolves around Nazis. And I don't think that's going to be a real big problem. I mean, it could be, but I don't think most of the bad guys in Power Rangers are typically swastika-laden white supremacists.
I think he's got plenty of experience leading people against foes that aren't Nazis in, like, all of the Avengers movies. I mean, I guess the Chitauri, Ultron and his forces, the fucking Thanos people. He does partially, like, focus on Nazis because he's an old guy, like you pointed out, you know. I just want to say, his old guy routine was good enough for the New York City education system. So, as we saw in Spider-Man Homecoming. So, if it's good enough for the New York City education system, it should be good enough for you.
Oh yeah, those videos show just how inspiring he can be to the youth. He's so connected to the youth,
Absolutely.
right? Thank you for making your point for me, Miles. So you said that Steven is only good at dealing with people from his own world, and he's not going to be able to deal with things outside of it. In what way are the gems, like the homeworld gems, at all from his world? And the fact that he's able to turn all of them when, like, Peridot doesn't even have the same word for fingers as him. Like, that's how far away they are. The only people he can't change to, like, being on his team are Aquamarine and Jasper. And remember the list of all the people he changed in terms of named characters who are villains that he can't change? I think that's really impressive.
When I'm talking about his world, I'm not talking about Earth. I'm talking about the world of Steven Universe, where people are usually good. All those people you're talking about that he turned are good people who are in opposition to him for other reasons. The only actual evil people in the show are the ones he can't turn. Jasper, Aquamarine, Eyeball, and Navy. The only people he can actually turn are not seen having, like, another side to their personas.
All right. Team Cap, are you cheating? I thought I was very clear that we weren't supposed to bring in help from any of the other Avengers. So, like, what is going on with all these storm clouds right now? Oh, sorry, that's not Thor. That's just the lightning round.
I wanted it to be Thor.
Another!
Well, folks, it turns out that not everyone is happy about our choice of Steves with shields for this match. I've just received a message from Steve Shields, an actual person who played hockey for numerous NHL teams before becoming the assistant coach for the Michigan Wolverines.
How long did it take you to look up that information?
3 seconds. I was searching for something else, and then I came upon this little nugget. He insists that while there's a certain degree of skill to be gained by leading a superhero team, the real experience you want is to lead a hockey team. Well, far be it from me to argue with a 2-time member of the all-CCHA first team, largely because I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, it's time for you to put together the crossover hockey team to end all crossover hockey teams. So, you're going to be choosing 5 teammates from your respective characters' universes to fill out your roster. Each hockey team needs 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. So, assign roles wisely, keeping in mind that each of your Steves also needs to have a spot on this roster. Then, the teams are hitting the ice, so describe to me the tactics and tricks you'll be employing, paint me a word picture of some of the highlights of the match, and tell me why your team will be the one to come away with the Stan Lee Cup. That's right, he gets his cameo even in this stupid match.
Wow.
Team Captain America went first in the main round, so Team Steven Universe will be going first in the lightning round.
So the first forward we would have obviously would be Connie. Her tennis training made her good enough at sword fighting that she like beat up this crazy robot monster. So I'm pretty sure she can hit a puck into a goal. I think she's got it.
Overhead death strike.
Yeah, overhead death strike. She made up that move, damn it.
The next forward we're going to employ is our newest friend, Blue Diamond. Aww. Her power is just she's going to make everyone on the other team so sad that they give up.
Next, we're going to have Sour Cream, of course. He is also going to be a forward. He has mad raving and dance skills. He can unzip his pants and wave them around as a distraction.
Critical.
He's brilliant at that.
For our defenders, I think that our first defender is going to be Topaz, who has the ability to split into Topaz and Topaz to cover more space. And then Topaz and Topaz can grab people, and then while holding them, fuse back together into Topaz to, stick them in inside of their body. So, yeah.
They also can't hear anyone because their gems are in their ears. So if anyone tries to egg them on, they're just going to be like, fuck you. And then, of course, we'd have Amethyst because, I mean, she's like the best wrestler. I'm pretty sure she can handle this. She seems to be able to learn new sports at an insane rate, and she really likes punching things and being punched. Like when she gets thrown at the eyeball a bunch of times, she just gets chucked at that thing and is like, no, do it again.
Yeah, I think professional wrestling is one step away from hockey as is. Like, I think she's going to take to it quite well.
I mean, yeah.
Fair point.
In terms of goaltender, I think we're going to do Garnet. You know, not only can she see the future, but Sapphire has ice powers through an ice thingy, and Ruby has fire powers, so he can selectively, like, freeze or melt ice. You know, it's a little bit of the curling thing, where you can selectively change the ice to make the puck go slower or whatever. That's how curling works, right?
Also, she's going to scare them away from that goal. Good Lord.
Yes.
I mean, she's going to say something creepy like, all comedy is derived from fear, and everyone's going to be like, I don't know if I want to go over there.
And I also think that we're going to have Pat Paracha on play-by-play commentary, because if you're not familiar, she has future vision. Like Garnet, she's a defective Sapphire, but her future vision only allows her to see the recent past very clearly, so it makes her very good for, like, instant replays.
Yeah, it's got just the right amount of delay and beautiful accuracy, but also kind of wonky sounding, so it sounds very poetic.
Wow. Okay. Well, I am going to have to put you guys into penalty box because you did not include Steven Universe in your team, as was specifically instructed. But, you know, so you think about that as you're chilling your heels.
Oh, I had that written down on my thing. I'm sorry.
He's the coach.
Steven Universe was inside of Topaz.
Oh, boy. All right.
I was going to say he was a defender, but I forgot.
All right, it's actually, our second defender is actually Smoky Quartz. It's the Steven Amethyst fusion.
Man, you guys are really playing Mighty Ducks with the way you're stretching the rules of hockey here, but okay. All right, Team Captain America, what do you got for me?
So our forwards are Black Widow and Bucky, because, as Bob so eloquently wrote on our document, because ice and Russia, etc.
Hashtag accurate.
Yep. No need to go into further detail.
And then Scarlet Witch is the third one. She can score telekinetically.
All right, defense people. Thor, he likes contact sports. Reminds him of his childhood, probably. Hulk, no need to explain. Just a fan of being included.
Yeah, those are the two guys you want bashing heads on the other side. And our goaltender is Captain America. I don't know if you guys knew this, but he's got a shield. And you can use that to presumably block the goal, as well as tactical strategy, I guess.
Yes, we have some tactical strategy. Mind wipe. Scarlet Witch makes the other team forget that they are on their team. And they're like, what am I even doing on this ice? Why are there blades on my feet? Speaking of blades on feet, Bucky and Black Widow pull the Yuri on Ice. It is just Bucky holding Black Widow above his head and then spinning her around very dangerously. And then using her blades, like, you know, just cut people down. It's very illegal.
Are you thinking of Blades of Glory?
Probably, but I don't want to talk about Blades of Glory. You're a superior piece of media.
All right. I think there are less weaponized skates in that one, though.
I mean, what more weaponized feelings, though?
Yes.
Hulk just holds the opposing team members like a bouquet in his arms until his teammates can get the puck back from them, and just like sort of rocks them gently in his giant arms.
I want to do my cool moment before you do yours, because I like Bob's a lot better, and I'd like to close with that. My cool moment in the match is it's late in the third period, right? Which for all you laymen is the last one.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
For all of you laymen and currently sitting Smash Fiction judges.
That's right. So the score is tied at 3, and Cap calls his teammates into the huddle. It's time for the super secret Avengers Assemble play. Thor, he tosses the puck into the air and smacks it with his hammer, clearing it out to the middle of the ice, and then Hulk clears out anyone else on the other team in the way, as Bucky and Black Widow streak across the ice, passing back and forth all Russian-like, and then they pass to Scarlet Witch, who slams the puck home with telekinesis. Where was the goaltender, you might ask? The goaltender has abandoned their team, because earlier, before the match even started, Scarlet Witch blew some weird red magic dust around in using an ability that she seems to no longer have to make everybody all mind freaky and not stable, because that's actually what happens when the team breaks apart in Age of Ultron. It's her fault, guys. And we have the lead now. It's now 4-3, late in the third period, right? Oh, what's this? Captain America, the goaltender, coming out of his net. The net is now empty. The other team begins to streak down the ice to even the score, and then Thor comes over and smacks Cap's shield with a hammer, creating a shockwave that shatters the ice and ends the game. And if you thought that's a bit of a low way for the noble and honorable Avengers to win this hockey match, just keep in mind, Tony Stark is the owner.
And then the final thing that happens is that Bucky just looks at the ice and then he punches it for what it did to Cap and how it stole years of them being together. And then Bucky and Cap just fall over making out on the ice, and then they get put in the penalty box. And then they just make out in the penalty box, and it's great.
Beautiful.
I somehow did not see that coming, and more the fool me for that. We've all learned a little something about hockey tonight, so I have a lot to process if I'm going to pick a winner. So I'll be back in a bit. Feel free to gush amongst yourselves in the meantime.
Yay. I brought what can only loosely be called a game.
What's that?
It's very weird, but in the MCU fandom, they have named the pairings, but they have named them very weird things.
Okay.
I just wanted to see if you could, only hearing the name, if you could guess what it is.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Pepper. Who do you think that is?
Tony and Pepper. Or Doctor Strange and Pepper?
Oh, that's good. No, it's not.
I don't know.
You got half of it.
Well, yeah, of course it'd be Pepper Potts, but Bruce
Probably
Banner?
Bruce and Pepper, yeah.
Yeah, it's Bruce.
Do they ever meet in the movies?
No.
Not really.
Maybe as
right.
Hulk.
Yeah, like off screen, yeah. Oh no, they meet in Infinity War.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah, they do. All right. Soviet spouses?
That would be Scarlet Witch and... Scarlet Witch?
I'm guessing that's Black Widow and Bucky, right?
Yes. All right. American Airlines.
Captain America.
And Falcon.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
also known as America.
America. Can I tell you my favorite? Or-
Yes, please.
All right, my favorite is Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, so good.
Nice.
Wow,
Very
I'm
good.
assuming Captain America and Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my God. There's a threesome one called Stark Spangled Banner.
That's it. That was what I was thinking. I was like, I think I'm doing it wrong. I thought there was one that was a triad. That's right. It's Stark Spangled Banner. That's the polyamorous triad.
Can we, seeing as it's just the four of us here right now, can
Yeah.
we all just take a minute to just talk about the fact that Steven Universe is fucking great?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't get to finish all of it before we did the match, but I was very much enjoying it.
How far are you?
Before the big reveal about Steven. But that's okay. I knew.
No, I'm sorry we ruined it for you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I knew. I mean, that's the price of doing Smash Fic.
This was supposed to be your incentive to watch it, Bob, and catch up.
Well, I tried. There's
know.
only so many hours in the day. I'm going to keep watching it anyway. It's not like, I don't think knowing what's going to happen is going to ruin it in any way.
That show, Claire, I know it's totally your thing, and I know that, like, you're the one...
No, it's our thing. I don't own it.
I know, but, like...
I didn't make it. It's Rebecca Sugar's thing, and all of the rest of us are...
That's fair, but I really appreciate it, and I think Sharon and I, it's our favorite television show, right?
Oh, by far.
Yeah, like, I don't think there's even a contest.
No.
Yeah.
If we're sitting and we're like, what should we do right now? We should watch Steven Universe.
Yeah, we should just watch Steven Universe.
That sounds good. It takes 15 minutes.
As soon as we got to the end of new episodes, we just went back to season 1 and started watching it again. Like, it's...
And then you start noticing things,
Yeah.
like like Connie's bracelet in the freezer
Oh my god,
my-
in the first
all
episode.
the foreshadowing.
There's so much
it's
fucking
all-
foreshadowing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We just finished watching the episode.
It was the first Stevani episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was the first time that everyone else had seen that Steven had fused with Connie, and Garnet is smiling like
It's so great.
a crazy person.
And it's before the
I'm
reveal
like,
about Garnet.
oh my god,
Yeah.
you're so excited because you understand how awesome it is. I love
Right.
this.
I love her. I love Garnet the most, but I love
Yeah.
everybody on the show. It's just so fucking
It's wholesome
beautiful,
and sweet.
and like people talk to each other and communicate. Like that's kind of why I decided to base my argument in the idea that like no other world will be this receptive to the character of Steven Universe because he's so fucking perfect, and the rest of them are so perfect too. And I love all of it.
Such a unique world.
Well, I can see the gushing is going as scheduled.
Oh yeah, you buzzkill coming
Yeah.
back here. Also, Captain America's great too. We didn't really get a chance
also
to
the
mention
MCU is
that.
good. We like the MCU.
The
All
MCU
right.
match!
Fucking amazing, and like, I fucking hate Captain America in the comics every time I try to read about him, but the MCU character is my favorite character in those movies.
I could very much tell because in all the matches that I've judged, both the opening arguments and the rebuttals for this match were the strongest and most passionately delivered I've ever heard. Notwithstanding their extreme length. You guys, I can tell, put a great deal of thought and love and care into this because it's obvious that you love and care about both of these characters in a way that I think we don't often see on this show. And it was very tricky for me to judge this because in a lot of ways, while these two characters are the hearts of their respective teams, the situations that they find themselves in are very different. You know, like the Avengers is such a different team from the Crystal Gems, and they have such a different relationship to each other, and they face challenges that the Crystal Gems don't, and vice versa. And so trying to kind of extrapolate out like how these characters' skills at leading a team would translate into a team that's really neither of their comfort zones was kind of the crux of what I had to deal with. And, you know, I think Miles was right. He was saying that he honestly thinks that Steven Universe would do a good job with his. And I honestly feel that about both of them. Like, I think that both of these teams of Power Rangers are going to end up so much better for having Captain America and Steven Universe at the helm. And I kind of want to leave it at that, but obviously that's not my job. My job is to make the tough call. The tough call I'm going to make is that the better Power Rangers team will end up being led by Steven Universe. Yes.
Woo! I'm good with that.
I can unclench my butthole.
Yeah.
Everyone who participated in this match tonight should feel real good about what you did, because that was some exceptional work from everyone.
You guys were really awesome.
So who are you guys? You brought some great points. I was like, oh, good. You brought all the good Captain America points.
I was terrified. The whole time, and I'm still terrified.
This is the best I feel about losing Smash Fiction ever.
I know. They're both such good Steves. Such good Steves.
You know who else is a good Steve? Is Sharon. Sharon, you're a great Steve, and we love having you on the show.
Such a good Steve.
Thank you for having me.
You're a delight, and it's always good having you on.
Thank you. I love being on here. It makes me happy.
Yeah, 'cause she gets to kick my ass every time.
No, I get to hang out with my husband instead of listening to him yell at a microphone. It's pretty awesome. Then I can yell at a microphone with him.
Is our favorite Steve gonna rejoin right now?
Tom, Bo, the Kit, thanks. First of all,
Steve, thanks.
I'm not Steve. I'm Kit. Claire.
We're all Steves now.
You're my favorite Steve, Kit.
No, we're all toast. First of all, I just want to make the announcement that in order to make it easier for our patrons to hear the audio stuff that we make for them, Dan set up an RSS feed. Dan, can you quickly explain what that is?
An RSS feed is
That's how you get podcasts.
Yeah, it's what you can subscribe to in order to get a podcast. If you are using a podcast app and you are a patron of ours, you can log on and go to our Patreon page. There is a link to our RSS feed pretty much on the landing page, I'm pretty sure. And basically, you can just enter that into your podcatcher, and then you'll get our bonus content as it is released, and you can listen to it like a regular Smash Fiction episode instead of having to navigate Patreon, which I understand is not the most convenient platform to search through for archives. So our apologies for dragging our feet on that one. It's up now. All of our archived audio content is there, so you can grab onto those bonus league episodes, Miles's conversations, Claire's itchy brains, Liz's songs, all the good stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you want to see the visual artwork that we've made or the like the fanfics that Bob has made, the easiest way to do that is to just search in the tags for our names. Just search for MeganBob, or search for Kit, or search for Claire. And another note, the freaking Christmas movie night was so great. Thank you to everyone who came.
Oh yeah, that was super fun.
So lovely. Really looking forward to doing it again. Thank you, Bob, for coordinating that.
And thanks to everyone on the fan faction who joined us to watch the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special. We anticipate doing another movie watching night at some point in the next few months, so if you want to get on that, make sure you're part of the fan faction, and we'll announce it there when we're ready to do it.
Yeah, we try to post about it like the day up, but that's a little too last minute. So I think the easiest way to keep up with those things is to be part of the faction.
I promise you it's worth it. If you're dragging your feet because it's Facebook, I hear you. It's a good place though.
Yeah, make a secret account and only interact with us on Facebook.
That's what I did. I have an old Facebook account I never use, and I made a new secret one just for the faction.
Over to Twitter, thank you to Radio J, Jeff Rick Present, Vander Turner, Robert Ramsey, Decade Fan, Sid Rabbit Blog, Odyssey Storytelling, Sean Boyd, Earth Mofo, Florian, Fat Blunt 69.
On Twitter. Wow, early.
Yeah, right? He's all over. Icon Jade, Matias Septimes, The Facade of a Jacques.
Ooh.
That's Jake the Fake, The Power Playthroughs Podcast, and Cosplay Fiend. Over to Tumbles, thank you to Sid Rabbit Blog, G Prime, Ultra Anonymous Angel, Fat Blunt 69, The Return, Changing Shades, and Secretly a Skeleton. Shh. Over to Facebook, thank you to Matias Saltimes, Hayden Reynolds, Jeff Polier, David Waters, Jeffrey Ketchum, and Adam Mayo. And lastly, Molly Hayes Hernandez sent us such a nice Gmail, guys.
Oh, yeah, that was really sweet.
Oh, I'm going to read that.
I read it and had a million feels.
She congratulated us on the Nico Zatanna match. She was very happy we did
Yeah,
that.
she was really happy about that one.
She gushed about Surprise Party, and she let us know that she is still working on that TV Tropes page that she's made for us, which is so sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That thing's always really fun to look at.
That thing is amazing, Molly.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, and thanks to all the work that you put into that page. Thanks also to Bakamon, or possibly Bakaman, who is the featured patron on this week's episode.
That's what that was.
I could hear you fucking wondering what the shit Dan was talking about.
Claire's like, I get all the other Power Rangers references.
I was like, Power Rangers reference, I don't understand. I don't like it. Cross my arms in anger.
Bakamon, or Bakaman, was turned into an obscure Power Rangers reference and was turned into an evil force that took two whole groups of Power Rangers to oppose because he supported us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, gets access to all of our bonus content, and just so much more good stuff. And lastly, I wanted to thank Simi, a longtime fan of ours, because Simi left us our most recent iTunes review. In a 5-star review titled TLDR, It's Awesome, he says, "Let me just tell you, these guys, gals, and non-binary pals rock. They do something they enjoy, they don't take themselves too seriously, on air at least, and they are super interactive with the fans. Do you want to hear your name in every episode? Then you can probably have it said 5 times if you played your cards right." What began as a people's court version of who would win in a fight has grown into an excellent and massively complex continuity of challenges that somehow all manages to make sense. Even if you don't agree with their verdict, you can see why it was ruled a certain way, and you have names of who to blame for their lackluster job of advocating. So you can write them and let them know all the things they did wrong. Parentheses, don't do that, you jerk, it was a joke.
Thank you, Civic.
But wait, there's more. You thought the Versus continuity was complex? Wait till you try and follow Extraordinary League, a very well-told story where the players continuously try and break the GM by riding, throwing, portaling, or undressing to meet the challenges. Did you ever wonder what would happen if your players put on a real musical with actual songs? Wonder no longer, for not only is there singing regularly, but there is a musical episode just like Buffy. And that is not all. Instead of letting themselves go stale or forcing topics, they took their strengths and expanded to new things that, guess what, are just as fun. What would happen if your favorite characters were on a dating show? Find out. What if Godzilla was basically in every type of movie? Find out. What if we replaced the core characters in Lord of the Rings with random other characters in the general archetype? Find out. To quote my favorite actual play podcast, they're having fun, and it shows. Come have fun too.
Oh,
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
That's incredibly sweet.
Thank you, Simi.
I want to listen to whatever show they're talking about here. It sounds pretty good.
Simi's written us a lot of good emails, and it's good to see him write a good review as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Please join us again next week for another episode of Collaboratory. Smash Fiction is produced by MeganBob, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
What are Thanos' kiddos called?
The Black Order?
They're called the Children of Thanos, right?
Yeah. The Thanos babies. Thanos babies. Sorry.
captain keeps Bucky at an emotional distance, ensuring that they still hug and talk like men.
They do the back pats and everything. It's really bad when they hug.
That's only because the fucking scriptwriters are cowards. You're cowards.
Kiss with tongue, you bastards!
Goddamn right.
Right? Oh.
In terms of Power Rangers pedantry, by the way, I'll point out, I did have a large section of my argument that I cut where I compared the two Steves to the two Red Rangers that lead the team at various points in Power Rangers Time Force. There's like a more militaristic, by-the-book one named Alex, and then there's like a doofus one who's just a big jokester named Wes, and like Wes ends up being the better Red Ranger of the two. It was a whole thing, but
Yeah,
like,
cutting that was probably a good idea, but you know.
yeah, just like I'm sure this will get cut out of the episode right now.
Indeed.
We can only hope.